Hello and welcome to Junaid's Maths. In this video, I'll be showing you how to work out or simplify indices questions. In exam, they can ask you to simplify or work out. This particular question here is related to workout question. And the first two examples belong to simplification question. What is the difference? The difference is that the base here is not a number. In the first two examples, the bases are alphabets. So in that case, the question normally will be asking you to simplify. I'll be talking about the indices laws. After looking at these 7 common type examples, you won't have to worry about higher or foundation algebra indices questions, as these will cover nearly all type of indices questions. If I talk about the first question here, that's related to, as I said, simplification. But how do we solve this? Sometimes you will hear a word index law or indices law. Why do they exist? And how to actually solve these problems? That is our today's aim. Now, the first part here, most of you will know that how did we get x squared? Or how will an answer be an x squared? So if I show you that x times x, as you know, will give us x squared. So this x squared was actually two x's multiplied together, and their powers were 1 and 1. That's why we have got x squared here. In other words, this x squared is a simplified form of 2x being multiplied. Yes, so this is our first index law. Now, whenever the bases are same and you multiply them, powers just add up. So in this case, you can see the power was 2. Now, this particular question, how do we do this? You can see that it's x squared multiplied by x cubed, means both bases are same, and we are multiplying them. The answer will be x to the power 2 plus 3, or x to the power 5. Why is that? As you know that there are 3 x's here and 2 x's here. If you open them up the way I have opened them up here, you will find there will be 5 x's. Now the next example here is similar, but you can see that we have a division sign. Now some students will try to divide 3 by 2. That is not the case, because remember that there are 3 y's here divided by 2 of the y's. And the law says when the bases are same, y to the power 3 divided by y to the power 2, when the bases are same and you divide them, the powers are just taken away. So what will happen now? Will be 3 take away 2. And the answer is going to be y to the power 1 or if we simplify it, y to the power 1, we just write it as 5. Now these were the most commonly seen indices questions. The next question here you would have rarely seen, but is quite commonly coming up in the new specs, is a number with a fractional power at the top. How do we actually solve this question? You would have seen a square root before. The square root, which looks like this, or some people say under root, has a power of half. So for example, if you process a number under the square root, for example square root of 25, you know that the answer is 5. What actually happens underneath this hood or the square root is this power here. That this power actually gives you the result into actually going back to its roots. And I'll show you what happens in this case. So when you have 16 to the power 12, 16 to the power half, how do we actually do that? We find actually a number which can give us power of 2. In other words, the root of 16. What is the root of 16? What two same numbers do we multiply to get 16? That is 4 times 4. In other words, this example normally will come on top of a square or a cube number. Now square numbers, as you know, are the ones where you multiply the same roots and you get a square number. Now in this case here, what we have done, we have just converted 16 into its base numbers. Now 4 times 4 is 16. So we have just converted them into the same factors. The next step is, as you know, that 4 times 4, what we have seen here, that the same number times same number gives you a square at the top. So we can write this down as 4 to the power 2, because we have 2 4s being multiplied. And now what happens to this power? This power stays here. And now we actually work this out. Now that is half of 2, or 2 divided by 2. That's cancelled. That gives us 1. Or you can see 1 is left over. Or if we simplify that, that is going to be only 4. Now we're quickly going to move to the next questions. And after these questions, you'll be happy that you won't have to deal with any other type of indices problems commonly. Now, in these 4 questions, you can see one of them only is with alphabet, and I'll talk about that. And the remaining 3 are workout questions. Now, the very first example, people sometimes do minus 3 times 3 and get your answer as 9 or minus 9. That's actually not right, because 3 to the power 3 is same as 3 times 3 times 3. Now, the same thing applies here. This is minus 3 to the power 3. That means it's minus 3 times minus 3 times minus 3. And if we actually simplify that, that is going to be 3 times 3, 9, 9 times 3, 27. And minus times a minus is a plus, and plus times a minus is a minus. I have a video on these negative numbers as well. If you struggle with that, do watch my videos. Now, talking about this example here, x squared to the power 4, it's power of a power. And there is a very simple rule for that. You just multiply the powers. But I'll be showing you underlying principle which we used in our first example. Why would we just multiply the powers and get an answer as x to the power 8? Why is that? You know that it's x squared and it's 4 times. X squared times x squared times x squared. And if you see, that gives us 2 add 2, 4, 4 add 2, 6, 6 add 2, 8. And that is the basic principle. If you actually straight away go ahead and do the process of x squared times 4 and give the answer to the power 8, x to the power 8, you won't be wrong. Your answer will be acceptable. You don't have to do this long procedure. Right, moving on to the next example. Is 8 to the power minus 2. It's slightly different from 8 square. Some students will give an answer of minus 64, common misconception. When the power is negative, it means that this number is actually underneath 1 or is a fraction. Now you can convert 2 into a positive number. Now if we actually simplify this, 1 over 8 squared is 8 times 8, and then the answer will be 1 over 64. Now we are at last example. You can see in around 20 minutes you can actually revise this and your indices part will be covered. Not just with the algebra, with the normal numbers as well. Now this 9 to the power 0, how do we do this question? You can get these powers on algebraic numbers as well. So for example, even with this 9 to the power 0, you can get x to the power 0. Now the law says that anything to the power 0 equals to 1. So the answer here straight away is 1. Now why is that? That is more important. Because it's better to understand things than memorize things. Why something to the power 0 is always 1? We have seen previously that if we actually divide y to the power 3 by y to the power 2, we had actually an answer of a y, means 3 take away 2. But if I had y to the power 3 divided by y to the power 3, the answer is actually going to be y to the power 0, or in other words, 1. Why? Let's look at this part here, the y to the power 3 divided by y to the power 3. In other words, it's like this, y to the power 3 divided by y to the power 3. How many y3s goes into y3? That's once. That's how, that if you write it in indices form, that's 9 to the power 0. But if you simplify it actually a little bit more, the answer is going to be 1, because technically a number was divided by itself, or in other words, 9 to the powers divided by the same amount of 9 powers gave us 9 to the power 0. We just have to go one step ahead and say anything to the power 0 is 1. That's it. Thanks for watching my video, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Thank you.